Newsweek just handed the Trump campaign some terrible news. They're reporting on a couple of polls that show the Trump campaign might be in a lot more trouble than they realize. I'll go over both of these polls with you guys, and the second one might just reveal what is Donald Trump's #1 weak spot going into the November elections. There is no denying that the Kamala Harris campaign is an absolute juggernaut right now. They have maintained all this energy and excitement for almost 2 weeks, and there's no end in sight. With the VP pick coming up in the next few days, Kamala has kept everybody's attention. And she's also announced that there'll be campaign stops with the new VP starting next week in major battleground states. We saw record-breaking numbers for fundraising, and now we're starting to see some polls trickle in that show Kamala is closing the gap with Donald Trump. And look at this article from Newsweek showing that Kamala has her biggest lead yet on the Trump campaign. A poll conducted by the polling company Ledger between July 26th and July 28th shows that when third-party candidates are included, Harris leads Trump by 7 points, with the presumptive Democratic nominee at 48% compared to Trump at 41%. And meanwhile, while only 5% of likely voters polled said they would vote for independent candidate RFK, third-party voters have shifted toward the two main political parties since Ledger's last poll in June, with the Democrats gaining 4 points and Republicans gaining 3 points. I have been saying for a while that RFK Jr. takes away voters from Donald Trump, not the Democrats. And that's because RFK Jr. was featured prominently on Fox News and Newsmax when he was running as a Democrat, and the Republicans are trying to mess with our primary. When that didn't work and RFK Jr. dropped out and became an independent, those networks were the only ones that wanted to talk to him. Every time he went on some left-leaning network like CNN, he would have a combative interview that I doubt left anybody pleasantly surprised and wanting to vote for him. And in a head-to-head matchup, Harris retained her lead over Trump, winning 49% of likely voters to Trump's 46%. That represents a 4% increase in the Democrats' lead over Trump since Ledger's June poll. Keep in mind, this is a poll of 1,002 adults over the age of 18 and had a margin of error of plus or minus 3.1%, which is a normal margin of error. This seems to be a trend with polls that have come out in the last couple of weeks showing that Kamala Harris has closed the gap with Donald Trump, if not outright leading him by a point or two. Now, this poll is a bit of an outlier by showing Kamala has such a big lead, but I think we're going to start to see more and more polls like this coming out. And speaking of rough polls for Donald Trump, I told you guys at the beginning that I had another poll that shows what might be Donald Trump's #1 weak spot. Look at the headline on this Newsweek article. Republicans want someone younger than Donald Trump as president. According to a YouGov poll conducted between July 25th through the 29th, 59% of Republicans surveyed said they would prefer a president under the age of 75. And Trump celebrated his 78th birthday in June. 40% said they had no preference, and just 2% said they would prefer a candidate over the age of 75. Democratic voters were particularly keen on a younger candidate, with 73% indicating they would prefer a president 64 years old or below. 24% had no preference. YouGov said the poll was conducted online among 2,266 U.S. adult citizens, and the margin of error was approximately 3%. So the good news for those Democrats in the poll is that Kamala Harris is only 59 years old. Republicans seem to have an age problem on their hands. They spent so much time convincing the American people that Biden was too old at 81 years old to be president. And now they have to defend their own elderly candidate because he'll be older than Biden is right now by the end of his term. And Donald Trump has definitely noticed the criticism of his age ever since Joe Biden dropped out. Look at what he said at a recent rally.
What a nice old guy. He's not old. You know, 81 is not old. I have friends that are 95 that are still. Bernie Marcus, founder of Home Depot, 95 years old, still sharp. Still sharp.
Trump appears to have dug himself into quite the hole by attacking Joe Biden's age nonstop over the last couple of years. And adding J.D. Vance, who's 39 years old, to the ticket doesn't seem to have helped. It is hilarious to see Republicans having to defend their older candidate, Donald Trump. Never before has his age been so evident now that Joe Biden is out of the race and people are comparing him to Kamala Harris. His age is going to become more and more of a factor, and he's going to get more and more defensive about it as we go forward with the campaign. Per this YouGov poll, Democrats would be smart to continue to attack Donald Trump over his age. And like I said, Donald Trump and Republicans spend so much time convincing the American people that an elderly president is not good that he is now on defense, and it is amazing to watch.